New York and on the new Hot 97 app. Ebro in the morning on Hot 97.
Ebro in the morning. Beautiful Laura Stiles. Rosenberg's on some weird sports assignment on the Jersey Shore with
ESPN.
With like Paulie D.
I think so. I don't know.
It's weird. Anyway, this young lady's from Court TV. Give it up for Yodit Tewolde right now. I became familiar with you. I think I saw you on CNN.
Yeah.
Weren't you on? You were a CNN contributor at a time.
So I go on all sorts of networks. I never actually tied myself down to a network in particular. I had full-fledged practice, criminal practice that I wanted to get into, and I would do the.
You're a lawyer.
I thought you guys knew. I'm sorry. Let me start from the beginning. Yes. So I'm a lawyer, criminal defense, been in criminal law for about a decade now, former prosecutor, then turned defense, then became a judge for about 2 months before I had to move to Atlanta. So now I'm an anchor.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So are you going to end up being like one of those like TV judges one day? Do you want to be like a TV judge?
Nah, I can't
You don't
do
wanna be
all
like
that.
Judge Joe Brown?
No, I watch Judge Mathis. He's hilarious to me. I love him. Judge Judy is paid. I mean, she's probably laid the groundwork for that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So, no, that's not my lane. I'm not going to say it'll never happen, but today, nah.
And so you walked away from your practice in Texas.
Yes.
And you were doing criminal defense, or you were a prosecutor and then did criminal defense?
Yeah, so I was a prosecutor for several years, doing misdemeanors, felonies, and there were some issues that I was starting to see because being a prosecutor was eye-opening for me, and I loved being a prosecutor, despite what people may think. It gave me a lot of discretion, a lot of power, but I saw some things that bothered me. And so I would go up to my first assistant and say, hey, can I talk about this stuff? And they're like, nah. Most DA offices don't allow you to talk about things that are political in nature, just in general on issues like death penalty, because then your opinion becomes the office's opinion. And so it was always a no. And that actually expedited my exit. I would have stayed at the office longer if it weren't this itch that I had that I really wanted to scratch. And so I left the DA's office and started my practice on MLK Day, and 5 years ago, and started doing criminal defense work. Then I started really getting out there with just writing stuff on the things that I was seeing, just really wanting to educate folks on what was really going on and what they needed to know to prevent themselves from actually getting a case file on my desk.
What were some of those things?
So, there was a lack of diversity in most DA offices, but in particular mine. But I came in under the first black DA of Texas, so that was really incredible. He would put on more of us, as prosecutors. But for the most part, it was how my colleagues would evaluate cases. They came from a different perspective, a different background. Right. And so certain things they just really didn't understand.
And that's common around the nation, though. That's one of the things about the job, right? Like,
absolutely.
We're going through here in New York City. We just had the opportunity to participate in electing the new Queens District Attorney, right? Yeah. And so there's been, I don't know how many candidates, 5, 7, whatever the number is.
Yeah, like 7 or 8.
But there's a young lady, she's awesome. Her name's Tiffany Campana, and she could have won. She's young, she's progressive, she's just amazing. And there was other candidates that we liked also. Point being, though, a lot of these smaller local jobs, right, we've spent a lot of time highlighting because we now are beginning to understand the process better.
Yeah.
Because normally, like you said, the prosecutor has some discretion.
The prosecutor is probably the most powerful player in the game. I'm talking in terms of a judge, defense lawyer, PO, probation officer. The prosecutor has the kind of latitude, the discretion to do what they want to do. You got to judge. If you have a prosecutor and a defense attorney that agree on a deal, the judge is going to go with it for the most part, unless it's just so far left or egregious that they bust a plea, so to speak, and decide to do something different. You have the prosecutor really calling the shots. I mean, I was dismissing cases left and right. Now, I had reasons for that, but I would look at my case file and I would look at the person, the age, and the crime. And there were certain crimes I did not care about. Unless there were crimes against certain people, elderly, if there was a victim involved, then I cared a little bit more. But pot, didn't care about. Weed, I don't care about. So you give me a little something, community service, pay a little fine here and there.
Or petty theft.
I'm getting rid of it. It's a waste. But there are some people that were so ingrained and just so obsessive about conviction rates that it didn't matter.
So now stop right there.
Yeah.
That is mostly what we hear about, right? Here in New York City, where we have a mayor, we have a Brooklyn DA, we have Queens DA now, right? Manhattan DA has already said, get the weed out. We're not doing that anymore.
Yeah, I think Queens was the only one that was still prosecuting
Queens,
weed.
Staten Island, and the Bronx, right? Or the Bronx is not.
Bronx is good.
Bronx is decriminalized.
So Queens
too.
and Staten Island.
So, but you can make that decision, right? But the law has to be decriminalized or something before you make that decision?
Oh, no. It was always a rule of mine in my case file. If I couldn't write reasons for dismissing a case, then I didn't do it. So what I would do is say, okay, this person's in school. This person has a GPA of, this person is a first-time offender, even if they had something else as, as a juvenile, whatever. This person gave me, 25 hours of community service and took a drug test, and it was clean. I'm getting
So
rid of
we
it.
have to assume that if there's a young prosecutor out there right now,
Yeah.
30 years old,
Yeah.
and no matter where they're from,
Yeah.
ethnically, culturally, socioeconomically, we'd have to assume that if that person wants to put an 18-year-old behind bars for weed,
Yeah. They can.
they not only can they, but they're more.
But they don't have to.
Their moral kind of fabric is in question now. Now I have to feel like you're racist. Now I have to feel like if you have the discretion you're looking at an 18-year-old who potentially is making an error for the first time, I'd have to assume that you're racist. Why would you want to ruin this kid's life?
That might be a little extreme, Ebro, only because there are certain people that just have a job to do, right? So for me, it wasn't like on day one I was looking to dismiss cases. I'm going to do what I'm being told. It was once I started getting my feet wet and really understanding how I can get these cases kicked, then I started really using that discretion. So there are some prosecutors who don't have that discretion. Now, mind you,
They're very by the
I had a
book.
black DA as a boss.
Got it.
So
Okay.
he gave me the discretion.
Right.
So I knew I wasn't going to lose my job. So it's important in terms of who is in that position as well to give all the other prosecutors that work up under him that latitude. So I had the flexibility.
Now, do you meet with every person that comes, like every case, every file?
Meet with who?
The actual,
Defendant?
Yes.
Oh, no. I talked to their lawyer.
Okay. So it's
And
just
so-
you and the lawyer.
So if they have
Being
a
a-
terrible lawyer,
And that's another thing. And that's why I started at the DA's office. I knew how to then be a defense lawyer. I knew how to approach prosecutors. There were trash attorneys that would come to me and didn't really know who their clients were. They didn't know
we
who
hear that a lot.
they were, where they came from, didn't humanize them.
Yeah.
So all I'm seeing is their mugshot and their crime. So as a defense attorney now, I went in with a different perspective. I said, I got to actually know who my client is, where they come from, what they're doing now, what they want to accomplish, and then go and relay that to a prosecutor, make them human to the prosecutor, make them feel something so that they could use that discretion.
Right.
So it's important when people, I used to get a bad rap for being a prosecutor. I used to want to lock, brothers away, but it wasn't about that. There are people that actually need to be locked away. But it's
and
important.
there's also people who are prosecutors who are actually trying to jump in front and take these roles so that they can help in some regard, right?
Absolutely. It matters. It matters, who's on the prosecution side. It matters who's on the bench. It matters from all sides. But for me to start at the prosecution's office was strategic on my end. I didn't want to be a lifelong prosecutor. I knew I wanted to get out on my own, but I wanted to be able to practice and hone my trial skills without any repercussions. No one was going to sue me for losing a case, right? Malpractice. I wanted to learn, just make all my mistakes there on someone else's dime and then bounce and go on my own, knowing that I had the confidence to go into trial because I learned those skills. So it's important, and I think that a lot of problems occur because of a level of ignorance. People don't understand their rights. People get entangled with the system and can't get out because they just don't know. When you're pulled over by a cop, it starts right then and there. And people don't know that they're actually burying themselves by talking, by allowing certain things. And so for me, I kind of wanted to help as a prosecutor. I sympathized with the defendant. It was weird. But I wanted to help in some kind of a way because I felt like at some level I connected with the defendant. Like for DWIs, for example, I'm sure a number of us could have been arrested for that. So when I saw that, I felt bad for prosecuting those kind of cases. That could have been me.
Unless it was something egregious or
unless you kill somebody, you see what I'm
right.
saying. So again, if there was a victim involved, then that was a level of importance I got to give it. But Anything else was, let me get rid of this.
How many prosecutors have, in your opinion, you don't have to indict anybody on this show, but with the school to prison pipeline, the amount of people that get locked up, it's always been my assumption, it's a conspiracy theory, that there's kickbacks that take place so that people keep piping kids.
Kickbacks to the prosecutors?
Whomever,
okay.
in some sort of way, keeping these kids pipelined into these jails. Like, why is the concern about conviction rates so much? Like, who?
I think politics gets involved too. You know, when you have a DA that's running for office again, they want to be able to tout a conviction rate, you know, to their constituents. You know, there's a level of fear of crime. People feel like it's rising. And so when you have a high conviction rate, then that makes people feel somewhat safe.
So, and I guess that's where I go with the kickback. So who's contributing, who's donating to your campaign when you're running for district attorney, right? You
know, there's a problem in Dallas that I've really wanted to expose. I need more information, but there are judges too who run for re-election, and they want to tout, hey, I've cleared X amount of cases, meaning they push them out.
Right.
Meaning, you know, when I first got out on my own, I set something for trial, and that judge looked at me crazy, like, what are you doing? I'm like, my client wants to go to trial. He's you know, got some really valid points here. We've got some evidence that, you know, basically says he's innocent. So I set it for trial, and mind you, it's appointed cases. So the judge appoints a lawyer a case because the person can't pay for a lawyer. Mm-hmm. And so he's expecting me to just work out a deal and move this case along. I want to push this case out. But me setting it for a trial meant that was going to cause a delay.
Now we got to do some work.
And that's a delay. But so guess what? Never got pointed a case out of that court.
Because you wanted to
because I wanted to actually set something for trial. I didn't know that was a problem. I'm doing my job.
And so crazy.
But not only that, this judge also gave, now mind you, there's a list of lawyers that are qualified to take appointed cases, right? And that list is supposed to just go alphabetical order. You ain't supposed to just bounce around. Unless, if my name is next and the client only speaks Spanish, then clearly you got to skip me. I don't speak Spanish.
Right.
But it's supposed to go in order. Well, this judge is appointing this a certain amount of cases to 3 or 4 lawyers because he knows they push cases, move them through.
And that keeps his clearance rate up, so when he runs again for an election, his donors like that.
There should never be an appointed lawyer making 6-figure off appointed cases out of one court. That makes absolutely no sense. And I never got a case appointed again because I couldn't. So they also have an agenda. So it's really almost having.
So there is kickbacks. My theory, there's something to my theory.
There's advantages to, doing certain things and taking certain routes. I think a lot of it is politically driven. Maybe money is involved. Obviously, with donors.
We live in America,
we do.
man.
You're right.
There's always money involved.
Always money involved. I can't necessarily connect the dots for you.
That's fine.
I can't tell you who's getting kicked back.
To.
But I also
I'm
think
from the hood.
But
we
listen,
don't connect the dots. We feel it.
But listen,
I feel like somebody acting funny, man.
The school to prison pipeline, though, I think has a lot to do with people not really wanting to acknowledge the issues and dealing with bad behavior in school versus, let me just call the cops real quick and get this taken. We have security officers in school. That's where it starts. And we're talking about bad behavior.
Now you have a student who's been suspended a couple of times.
Yeah.
Now he gets a joyriding charge that they turn into grand theft instead of joyriding. That, you know what I mean? And this thing spirals out of control. You have a prosecutor like yourself that comes along and is like, hey, maybe we should look at this.
So, yeah.
The judge goes, you know what? I'm tired of you looking at every goddamn thing. I'm trying to go on vacation. And instead that judge says, you know what? Boom, I'm giving it to someone else.
No, prosecutor.
And that privately owned jail is donating to his goddamn campaign.
He's got it all figured out, Ebro. No. As a prosecutor.
It sounded good, right?
It did for a second. But no, as a prosecutor.
You know what I was talking about.
No, listen. As a prosecutor, though, Ebro, the judge is more likely to listen to what it is I want to say. I'm talking on the defense side, though.
Okay.
So
you're an amazing human being.
No,
of course the judge wants to listen to you.
But here's the thing. I used to prosecute adults and juvies. So I went to the juveniles, right? Because at some point you got tired of really looking at like the 60-year-old who ain't gonna put down the crack pipe. Like it got to a point where it was like, okay, there's nothing that could really be done for him. But going to the juvie side and seeing how these kids were coming from school and you're here because you poked somebody in the face with a pencil and now you got an assault charge? What? So, getting rid of those. But the thing is, in court, when I was a prosecutor for juvie, I noticed that there were no people of color on the defense side. All you had was like old white people. And they didn't know how to relate to these kids.
That's right. It's cultural disconnect, generational disconnect, all of it.
And they didn't understand how to advocate. So if you don't know who your client is, you can't advocate for them. So there was a problem on the defense side too.
So now let's. You are Eritrean.
I am.
But you grew up mostly in the United States.
Yeah.
You did a lot of tweeting about Nipsey Hussle, who was also Eritrean.
Yes. We're covering that case too, y'all. So Court TV.
Well, and that's why I brought it up, because on your new gig, you're covering this case.
Yeah. Several cases.
Several cases, but this
John,
one for sure.
That one, yep.
But this one, we just got, I guess, well, we knew it in the hood, and it was speculation that there was a conversation between him and his murderer with regard to the murderer being a snitch. And that's what escalated the situation.
Correct.
And you following this case,
Yep.
What new details could you impart upon us?
So I don't know if everybody knows or anybody knows, there was a pretrial hearing yesterday on this case. So the prosecution, mind you, the prosecution and the defense were asking the judge to keep the transcripts from the grand jury sealed.
Why?
They think that was going to compromise Eric Holder, who's the accused in the case, compromise his chances of a fair trial, right? If we put this out there and we put the details out there, we're possibly tainting a jury pool who could be on this case.
Don't they know the jury pool's already tainted?
I think in general,
with social media and access to information.
But here's the key, right? When you are picking a jury, and I have to do this on both sides, you have to make sure that even though you've seen some coverage, can you put that aside? Now, I know we're human beings, and sometimes it's hard to do. Sometimes it's hard to, you can't unring the bell, so to speak. But there are some people who could see the coverage and say, aside from that, yeah, I can look at the evidence and the facts and make a decision and not factor what I saw in the media. Now, if you got somebody that says that, then that's a person that can potentially be a juror. If you got somebody that says, nah, I've seen too much and I don't think I could really be fair, then they'd be kicked, right? And
now,
so that's where we're at with that.
I think there's a lot of things with this case that I've looked at, right? The kid Eric Holder, obviously coming from that neighborhood and past issues that he's had.
Yeah.
There's some mental health and some emotional trauma and just some things going on with him.
Okay.
Right? For sure. There's also just the fact of, did you show up with intent to do this?
Yeah.
Right? And where was this car that you ran in? How'd you have a getaway driver?
So,
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Wasn't there a new, because I think I read this yesterday, where the woman who actually drove him
she's cooperating.
She's cooperating,
Yes.
which gives her immunity.
Yes.
So she basically just talked
So
talked
she's
about
singing.
everything that happened inside the car. She's just talking and letting him know what his motive was, like what the reason that.
And how did you know that information? Because see, that information wasn't available until the judge decided to unseal those records.
Right.
So in that hearing yesterday, both sides didn't make a compelling enough argument for him to say, yeah, we're going to keep this stuff sealed. So the grand jury details kind of came out for the LA Times because their attorney was pushing for it to be revealed, right? We have a level of transparency to our readers. Mm-hmm. People need to know what's going on in the system to make sure that everything
not only that, there's a level of transparency that the community needs.
Okay, and that's where Court TV comes in, because I don't think people really understand that we're here for that particular reason. There is no network right now, that is dedicated to giving literally gavel-to-gavel coverage. None. No daily, and I'm not talking about.
Some of it y'all need to edit down. I ain't gonna lie.
Edit.
Some of it.
We ain't editing. No, you're gonna see it from beginning to end.
When you watch NBA TV and you just want to get like the 3-pointers and the dunks.
No, you know why we can't do that? Because at the end of the day, when we get a verdict, for a Later trial, for example, the one in Florida, right?
The who trial?
The Aleda trial. So Jonathan Aleda was the one that shot the Charles Kinsey. He was the behavioral therapist on the ground with his hands up. Autistic kid or adult, his client, who had a toy who Jonathan Aleda, the officer, thought was a gun, right? So he's screaming in the tape like, don't shoot him. It's a toy. So he had his second trial because the first one ended in a mistrial. So he had a second trial.
The cop got a mistrial.
The cop got a mistrial. It was actually, now in Florida, you got a jury of 6. 5 out of the 6 wanted to acquit him. 1 was the holdout. That's why it was a mistrial. So they had a
Shout
second
to the
trial.
holdout.
So there was a second trial. And the second trial ended up with him being convicted of one of the misdemeanor cases that wasn't obviously the most he can really see is a year, but the most severe was the assault, right? So there was a felony. They acquitted him for that. And a lot of people are, they're like, this isn't right. I mean, clearly he shot this man in the leg. You trying to shoot this autistic person, but you shot him. He should have been convicted. And people don't understand the end results. So when you talking about editing certain things, I want people to see from beginning to end. I want you to see how this jury was selected. I want you to see the opening arguments. I want you to see the evidence portion. And then I want you to see the closing arguments. I want you to see the deliberations. And then I want you to see the reading of... The thing
closing arguments maybe.
But Ebro, when you talk about transparency... You're talking about seeing it all. Now, you want to fast forward, or you want to just watch something else in the meantime?
You shot and all. You was trying to kill an autistic kid with a toy. I just want to know what they ended up doing to you.
Well, no, it is important that people see the process.
They have to see the process so they can understand, because I think we're so emotional about the result and not really understanding how we got there. Now, you may disagree with it, but now you have an understanding as to how we got there.
That's fair.
Whether you like it or not.
It's fair.
And that's what we're going to do with the Nipsey Hussle. That's what we're going to do with Botham. Okay, so Botham Jean is in my city. And that's the young man who was in his apartment minding his business.
And the cop knocked
on his door. The white woman who was a cop.
Knocked on his door and killed him.
Knocked on his door, thought it was her apartment, and shot him. That's coming up in September. So that's, So
What's the facts there? Give me the facts, Yodi.
So here's the
thing.
Thing.
They used to mess around or something, didn't they?
Nah,
or she was wasted.
And that's the
Which
element.
one was it?
See, everybody got to add some sort of a sexy element to it. It's really not that.
I seen her in a photo with a dude throwing up a white power sign, too. Which one was it?
You're making this up.
I did. These are all stuff. Listen, it's all internet trash.
And that's another thing. It's like, what to decipher.
It's all fake news probably, but I'm just saying.
No, okay, so they never had, I know the family attorney, they never had a relationship. They did not know each other. And this woman thought, now sometimes I know that area, I know the apartment that they lived in.
She was intoxicated, right?
So they did a toxicology on her, but we don't know the results.
They did a toxicology on her the next day.
We don't know the results, but guess what? They came out with this article and the headline was saying, we found pot in his apartment.
Right, we saw that too.
In his apartment.
We don't care.
Right.
How does that even matter? I want to know what's in her system. So, but I will say this.
And what does pot in somebody's apartment have to do with somebody getting
killed? It doesn't. But that's just par for the course.
Look like the villain.
It's par for the course. I expected that, right? But here's the thing. I've lived in a building where I got off on the wrong level in the garage. But as soon as I hit that door, I'm like, yeah, this don't feel right.
You look at the number.
Yeah, it don't feel right. The same, I got off on the wrong, whatever. So, but also the doors automatically slam. You know those doors that just don't stay creaked open? So she tried to say that the door was cracked open when those doors automatically shut.
They closed.
Right.
So either the door was unlocked or her claim was she saw a figure, she thought it was her apartment, she thought it was an intruder, and shot him and killed him. So now that trial is going to start. That's going to be a big one, huge. And I think that people...
So he never got up and answered the door?
Apparently not. Apparently she opened the door.
And the video and audio
he was
of her
sitting on the couch
banging on the door
cereal.
is not real?
Nah, I don't think. Video of her banging on the door.
There was audio or something of her like banging and yelling or something.
The 911,
on.
somebody took footage of her calling 911, and that was released. And apparently she was more concerned about losing her job than actually providing help. So she's changed her hair now. You already see the tactics the defense has put it on. She literally looks like a different person from her mugshot. And so that's to soften her. Of course, anybody that sees her in the media, potential jurors, that's going to be huge. So it's important for people to understand that there is a place for you to go to see this. Because I don't, the whole hashtag thing and getting your news from, clicking on a hashtag or social media.
You expect us to be responsible? And intellectual?
Absolutely. And
here's the president of the United States is right now?
Who cares?
You expect
is
the
that
majority
the barometer now?
You speak the majority of people, the population of America is about to be out here not clicking on hashtags and being responsible, reading articles and watching on case.
Because there's so much fake.
You know what really pisses? No,
I'm not saying it's not important. I'm saying your expectation of people's abilities is very high.
That's watch TV?
Yes.
Watching
and understand
TV.
What's going on.
I don't think so. I think we need to know the truth.
if we're covering, for example, Nipsey Hussle trials, let's say right now
People
we don't have a trial.
that.
Why are they watching that?
Because it's Nipsey Hussle.
Okay, and I'm trying to make the point that we're actually covering cases we care about. The cases that are important to our community is what I know
They're
we are
not
going to want
watching
to
the
watch.
one with the white cop lady that knocked on the wrong door and
Guarantee
killed the
they
dude.
will. Okay, what about?
I'm gonna tell you why.
Okay.
Because she need to be in jail.
And they want to see that happen.
Just give me the answer.
Okay, see,
Is she in jail or not?
And here's the
I
thing.
disagree. I think people want to see it. I want to see how that's going to go down.
Okay, so here's my thing too. Okay,
You watching?
How many of y'all? You better watch.
I'm so
That's
curious.
it.
Go to jail.
Okay, so you don't even want to see opening statements. You don't see
Because
closing
you know why?
arguments. You don't want to see
I'm gonna tell you
the
why.
evidence.
I wanna see what she had to
I
say.
already don't believe that y'all want to put her in jail for this crime, man.
Well, let's
she
see.
killed somebody in my world. Somebody goes in the wrong apartment and kills somebody. They
Okay,
going
so
to jail.
Ebro, are you not at least
just
gonna-
because she got a badge and a gun? That's the only reason we're
You're right.
doing this.
Okay, so are
And
you
we
not
don't-
at
and-
least glad that she's standing trial? Let's get to that. Let's at least applaud that part.
Maybe.
No,
Yes.
it's not over, but you would be complaining if she never got indicted. So let's just give
Oh,
the
no, I'm
grand
glad
jury
she got
kudos.
indicted. I'm
She
glad
got
she got
indicted.
indicted.
So now let's see this through, right?
right.
But here's my thing. How many of y'all been called for jury duty? Because I've never been called, and I'm
I
like,
have.
Oh, I have.
why? Okay, so what did you do with that?
I
Jury
went.
summons.
I went.
And what
I
happened?
went.
Y'all got put on a jury?
They asked me my first name. I said Ibrahim Jamil Darden. It was said, thank you for coming out.
You lie. All right, so all right, so you made it on a jury. You were the foreman. Was it a criminal trial? No. Darn. All right. Anybody else?
I made it. But I didn't. I wasn't a good fit for the case.
Okay. What kind of case was it?
It was a criminal case.
Okay. And why wouldn't you? It was just more specific
got
for you.
tattoos.
No,
and they
because too
thought
many
she was a
people knew who I
gangbanger.
was, recognized me, and I didn't feel
Gotcha.
safe.
All
When
right.
she
All
got
right.
tattoos, they thought she was a gangbanger. And it was like, nah, you
I
can't
was like,
be here.
nope,
Here's the
this
thing.
Can't be me.
I get calls all the time like, yo, I just got summoned for jury duty. Like, what do I need to say to get out of it? And I usually hang up. I hang up.
But I will tell you, if it wasn't that I got recognized and I was like, this could go left, right? Because the crime happened somewhere where I lived,
Yeah.
right? Somewhere near to where I lived. I would have stayed because the rest of the jury, it was mostly old white people.
Because they got
That
time.
is okay. So no, that is my point, y'all. I'm serious. It makes me so angry when people try to like minimize jury duty when they try to
No,
get
it's very
out of jury.
important.
It's so when you complain about the verdicts and then you see the makeup of the jury and you see that the defendant is black and you see the jury 90% of them are white. I can't really feel sympathy for people not understanding why the jury is what it or the verdict is what it is. So it's so important from just even that stage. And so again, it's important. And you're saying I'm putting
And
a
all
high
white people got
high
time.
expectation. In what way?
They retired.
So you're just assuming these white people are just rich and they got work,
No,
to,
they just
work to
retired.
go to.
They just retired.
They're retired. Okay, so at the end of the day,
Or they have jobs that aren't part-time and they can take some days. And there's a lot of people
You
out
right.
here.
You
There's
right.
a lot of people out here who work part-time. They get called for jury duty. They
Yeah.
need the time.
I feel you. No, and
That's
a
a real thing. They don't. They
It's
can be
real.
like, yeah, take your jury duty. We're not
I'm
paying
only
your
talking.
hours.
You're right, and I'm only talking about like if it's an extreme hardship, I get it, but I'm only talking about those who know they can serve and just don't want to.
That's fine.
Let me get out of it. What do I need to say? What extreme thing do I need to say?
I just think a majority of Americans are stupid. That's my honest opinion. Look at our president. And I'm not saying that is like acceptable.
Yeah.
It's unacceptable. It's just reality. That's all I'm saying. And a lot of times even right now with the Democratic debate, right? I love a lot of the candidates up there. They're saying some good things.
But they're politicians.
They're politicians, and the Democrats want this perfect candidate who's super smart. We got a fucking dummy. Donald Trump is a dummy. He's the president. Right? Now, we did have Barack Obama. Amazing human being, smart, well-educated, all of the things we love. Before that, the Republicans had another dummy. George Bush Jr., dummy.
Yeah.
My point being is there's a significant population of America who's fucking stupid.
Okay.
And
but,
at times, it flares up.
And at times it flares up. But here's the thing: when I got to go back to that point where you're saying that I'm expecting too much of us. I think there is a need. There's a thirst.
No, you're expecting too much of America.
No, I'm talking about our community though.
Oh, okay.
With regards to criminal justice, with regards to this trial process, me holding them accountable for the knowledge, I think is important because I think there is a need and a thirst for that knowledge. When people are pulled over, this is something everybody can relate to. What do I do? Right. And people, that light bulb that goes off is what I love.
And you're saying that court TV is a place where you can go see this thing happen
From start
in detail
to finish. So you can't say you didn't know. You can't say, oh, I love when people say, I didn't know that. I didn't know that when a cop asks you a question, that means I have the option to say no. I think people assume that the badge and the uniform means I have to do something. And so I used to tell my clients all the time, don't help the cop prove a case against you. Help me help you. Say nothing. You can do that. You can actually say, hey, am I being detained right now? Oh, I'm not? Am I free to leave? Okay. People don't, and I think
so
that
you gotta
people
say, am I free to leave?
Yeah,
So
you
they
just
say
don't
you're
want to
not being detained,
I
can't
think
just
it's better
bounce.
to just make that clear, especially when things should be recorded, right? You just want to be as thorough as possible. Can I now leave? So it's not looking like you're running away. Oh, I had to apprehend him. He was a flight. He was running from me. You don't want those situations to come up. So I think people are hungry for that kind of knowledge, especially given the fact that we have so many of these run-ins. You talking about people don't want to watch about the trial with Botham Jean. I think that they do. This wasn't one of those situations. He was just minding his business in his apartment. But at the end of the day, I think people want to understand that criteria that police are put to, that standard, which I think is a problem in and of itself. But the fact that you have a cop on trial for murder, I thought this was going to be a manslaughter at anything. A murder, that's huge. So don't minimize it. I think it's important.
Now, do you think that they can actually get this done? Because that's another thing that we often see. We often see charges go up that they aren't realistic in them getting done, it seems like.
You mean like they overcharge?
They overcharge. There you go.
Yeah. I thought in the situation, it might have been an overcharge, but then I thought about it. When you charge somebody with murder, you're talking about they had an intent to kill somebody. When she pulled that trigger, she intended to kill somebody. So that intent was whether it was 2 seconds or 3 seconds, it was there. So I actually think they can pull it off. She does have some really good attorneys. I know them. But the prosecution's solid too. I know them working from that office. So I think it's going to be a big case, and I think people need to don't say you don't understand when you have an avenue and an outlet to understand. So if you want to really get a clear view of how this works from start to finish, then you need to tune in and actually watch, because we're the only ones doing it. We have the budget. We have the cameras. Now, mind you, certain judges don't want us in there, right? Harvey Weinstein, we're going to cover that case, but we cannot get cameras inside. They just
And
won't
why is
allow
that?
it. Sometimes it depends on both sides. It depends on the profile of the client, the defendant. R. Kelly, that judge, is allowing us to have cameras inside. Pre-trial,
You think
trial.
it's because Harvey Weinstein has more money that they don't, because somebody like R. Kelly, I mean, why wouldn't we see Harvey Weinstein, but we would see R. Kelly?
It depends on both sides. It could have been a situation where Harvey Weinstein and his team were saying, we don't want that, or the prosecution agrees, or the judge himself says, I don't want a circus. I don't want that to potentially cause issues in the trial.
I'm not buying it.
Well, there's certain counties
I'm
that
not
have
buying it.
that
I
have.
doubt R. Kelly's people want those cameras in there. Like, come on.
But guess who does? The judge, right?
And the judge for Harvey Weinstein don't want cameras, but we know who Harvey Weinstein is. Big bread out here. R. Kelly can't even pay his light bill.
So it also depends on the state too, though, Ebro, and I will say that. So just to be fair, some states like Pennsylvania, we can't even get a camera inside, period. Like if we had launched when Bill Cosby's trial was going on, we would have tried to get cameras inside, but there would have been there's no way you could do Pennsylvania. So there's certain states that are just off limits.
And
New York,
Pennsylvania, just a little bit of a coinky dink, has more people under court supervision than any state in the whole damn country, but they won't let no cameras in the courtroom.
And why do we need cameras in the courtroom now, Ebro?
So we can see what's going on. Court
Transparency.
TV, boom,
No,
transparency.
I'm not even trying to
Boom,
do.
it's
It's not
popping.
even really just
Tune
a
in,
plug.
lock in. My homie
No, it's really.
Yodit is over there.
It's really about transparency. I just want to be very clear with people. Like, no one's trying to hide anything. This is a system that was built for us, or not built for us, but built for this country. I want y'all to see what happens in this system from front to the end. And I don't want people to assume that we're cutting certain things or there's some shady business going on. Sometimes that could happen, but we
And
will
ladies and
see
gentlemen,
it.
this is why immigrants are important. Just so y'all know, Yodi, where your parents was born? Eritrea. And you grew up here, so you're first generation.
First generation.
My greats was slaves. We done lost hope for this country a long time ago. You still believe in the system. We out here mad cynical. It's very important, man. It's very important.
I don't believe in the system wholeheartedly. What I believe is being able to show the cracks and being open with people in order to, how can you change something you don't see? I know we feel it. Our parents, our sisters, our brothers, our cousins, our friends are all at some point been arrested, been in the system, and at some point we feel it, but we don't necessarily see how. And I feel like we need to get exposure.
You're absolutely right.
And so,
but that's even now, voting locally, right? There's more people getting active locally. There's more people doing things locally, working in their local communities to improve their representation, to improve their relationship with cops, to improve. Like, there's a lot of local work going on because people have seen what can happen at the national level.
Right.
When you're not even making sure your backyard is in check.
Your backyard is probably the most important.
It is the most important.
It's the most important. That's how you get the sheriff of your county, the DA, judges. These are people that really impact your life. First and foremost, versus national. I know people pay attention to the national. We just had the debates last night, right? So people are really focused on 2020 elections, but they ignore what's happening locally, and that's where I think most people are impacted.
Did you like any of the candidates in these debates?
There's a lot of them.
Yes.
I didn't get to catch the first night. I did catch the second night.
Oh, you watched the night with all the marquee names. You went into.
Were they? I had no idea.
Those are the big names. Was on night 2.
So night one
was.
Who had night 1?
Was on there, though.
Oh, Elizabeth Warren was night 1. De Blasio was night 1. Cory Booker was decent.
Beto was night
Beto,
1.
Yeah, from my state. Okay, so there was a couple
Beto
of those.
was flat. He
I
was
heard.
flat.
Oh, and Julian Castro came through.
Julian Castro came
I heard
through.
he kind of
got
he
busy.
came through.
He did.
Okay, so last night, I called last night though.
Last night was Biden. Killer Cam was up there.
How'd you?
You know what I mean? Kamala
That's
was
her
up
new
there
name.
cooking.
She had a good
Chef Cam.
Buttigieg. Is that
Buttigieg.
Buttigieg.
He
He
got
did
busy.
great. He did great.
He took responsibility for his South Bend
which was
issues.
important, and I'm sure he felt like, damn, why did it have to happen right now? But you know,
Hey.
there's a police-related shooting there.
Yeah.
He said he failed in trying to get more people of color on the police force.
Yep.
He acknowledged it. It was sincere. I appreciated that.
And he said that the police force is mad at him for the levels of accountability. They're mad at him for holding them to so much accountability that he's getting backlash from the police force.
Yeah, but you hear from community leaders there. They'll say this shooting happened. He made a public statement before he even talked to the family. You know, he didn't do what he said he was going to do. So they have some gripes with him too, and he acknowledged it. And that's the first thing you got to do is acknowledge it. You know, I think the problem with Biden is that
He's sleepy.
he double downs on stuff.
Well,
that's
it's
just so
arrogance. He's too
obvious.
arrogant. He's too arrogant about his past, and he's too defensive about his past. And instead of saying, listen, it was a different time, and I tried to get things done that didn't pan out the way I wanted them to,
Yeah.
or I made a mistake,
Yeah.
right? He tries to say, no, that wasn't it. That wasn't what happened, et cetera, et cetera. And that's not what people want to hear, and it shows that he's out of touch.
And I think Kamala is in that same boat. I think people were giving her grief for being she was a prosecutor at one point, then the DA, and then AG. And some people have a problem with her criminal justice record too.
Well,
she
I
can
think
admit
there's
to
some
certain things.
she has some problems.
She has some problems, but also
She didn't prosecute some things that she should have done, and she prosecuted some things in ways that she could have changed. That
Yeah.
was heavy-handed.
And she also had programs for first-time offenders. There were, programs she put in place for felons to get diplomas. So there's a give.
So you like
there's
Kamala?
pushing.
I knew I would get that out of you.
No.
I knew you was
I'm not
partial to
sold on her
Kamala.
yet. I'm not sold on her yet. I got my eye on her, but I need to hear more.
That's your
I need
district
to hear more.
attorney homie right there. That's your prosecutor people.
I'm defense too. Defense,
I mean?
judge. I mean,
Yeah.
look, at the end of the day, I need to hear about criminal justice. That's everybody has their issues,
Do you
right?
vote on that? Like when you make your votes, usually.
Well, right
is
now
it-
I'm kind of tempted to Bernie's he's enticing with that, trying to get rid of loans because damn, they on my ass. I can't. So when he said that, I was like, he has a plan too. Oh,
Elizabeth Warren's plan is dope too.
Now she's more policy driven.
She
has
for
plans.
everything.
Yeah, I like
That's
that.
Elizabeth. I have a plan for that. Warren.
Wait, she
got a
touched
plan.
on student debt?
She was the first one, I think.
first one.
Yeah. So that definitely had
With
my
the
antennas
plan.
go up.
Bernie's been saying it. Elizabeth
yeah,
came
yeah,
with
yeah.
we're gonna do it
Here's
like
the
this.
breakdown.
Step one.
Right,
Step
right,
two.
right.
She was ready.
I don't know how feasible it is, but that perks my ears up for sure. But yeah, what I look for sure in candidates are their criminal justice platforms. I really want to know what it is you're going to do beyond what has already been done. There's nothing that has been transformational. There's been progress, but nothing just transformational. And so I'm trying to hear that, and so I need more time. this was the first set of debates.
No,
so.
it's early. There's 11 more debates.
There's so many of them too.
There's 11 more. It goes. This is how it goes, and that goes to my point about people paying attention. Yeah. Even though I was trolling you, telling you.
Were you trolling me, bro?
Yeah, I was.
No,
but I really do believe that more people are paying attention now than ever, and wanting to understand the process. Because even with now, most of the time, people ain't watching these early debates like this.
They're not.
People are watching right now because the stakes are high. People are paying attention in detail because they're realizing that, wait a minute, there is something that I can do in my community to affect things on a national scale, whether that's around criminal justice, whether that's around immigration, whether that's around just participating in voting and helping laws get passed and monitoring things. I do feel like more people, not enough, but more.
I mean, right now, polls constantly show that millennials are interested in criminal justice reform more than anything. And I don't know if that has something to do with...
No, because it's bullshit. Because a cash bail is bullshit. There's just a lot of laws that are bullshit. There's a lot of prosecutors who are out there and all they care about is their rates. They don't actually care about helping human beings, as you pointed out earlier in the conversation. It's a lot of judges, I believe, taking kickbacks for their campaigns and whatever, what have you. Sheriffs doing the same shit. They're taking it from a lot of these privately ran facilities and jails. They're taking it from these bail bondsmen and all those type of money. They all having dinner together, hanging out, going hunting and doing their bullshit, exchanging a little money, sending PayPals and Venmos and shit and hanging out with each other. Meanwhile, black and brown kids is going to jail. That's what's happening. I just showed you the whole case right there. Take it to court TV, lock it up. It's done. Her name's Yodit.
Look,
people want transparency, and that's why they're going to tune into court TV.
Yodit on court
yes,
TV.
Yes. And hey, anybody want to go to law school? Go to law school. Be prosecutors, defense attorneys. We need y'all. More of y'all. We just need to see each other in the system more.
Hopefully we see you again. And we would love to communicate on some of these cases that you're covering too. Because as these cases explode,
Kodak Black, we're covering that one too. So. He's got federal charges right now, so we're looking at the rape in South Carolina.
Yeah. That didn't go so well when we brought that up on this program.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, we're covering that
and
anyway.
I was trying to help, dude, man.
watching.
I was like, yo, my man,
We'll
when
be
this
watching.
get cleared up, you could come back, man, because we take sexual assault seriously. He wanted the ice grill and curse at my friends. Nah, I ain't doing that bullshit.
He's going to be real annoyed because we're covering that
bullshit.
gavel to gavel.
Yo, D, we love you. Good job, all right?
Thank you.
Keep working.
Thank you.